I had multiple heart attacks on the table and things were going haywire. He literally called the head surgeon who was teaching a class at the time and said, "You need to get down here because I'm not sure what's going on, but we have, Houston, we have a problem
Yeah.
with the situation."
Yeah.
And so fast forward 5 days later, I woke up intubated. My hands were tied to the bed rails. I had no clue where I was at. I couldn't speak. Um, Terrified. And as it was explained to me later, I went through open heart surgery. The surgeon had me go immediately into open heart surgery. And it was a 9-hour operation where they lost me twice on the table.
Hello and welcome to Along the Way Life's Journey. I'm your host, Carl Buccellato. We have a truly remarkable guest today. His name is Dan Williams. His life event is just the type of motivational and inspirational story this podcast was created for. Dan has virtually come back from the brink of death to a life only God could have blessed. And to hear him tell it, he was granted extra innings. He reaches out to many through his program, A New Heart for Life. Please welcome Dan Williams. Dan, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you. Glad and honored to be part of your show and, talk about the theme of journeys.
I think that's wonderful, and we were chatting a little bit before the show started. I'm happy to say that he finally feels comfortable that he's on screen with someone older than him. He usually doesn't have that, but I ain't the police, so I'm a few years older than he is. But you look remarkable, Dan. You really do. And you're clearly a man who lives by what you preach. You're very fit and you're very capable. And I love to see that. It just goes to show that if we stay determined to what we want to accomplish, we'll get it done. And you're a living example of what you preach. That's wonderful. So tell us any stuff about Dan. I know you're a graduate of many universities, Phoenix University, Maryland University, St. John's College, all that stuff. I know that you have 4 wonderful daughters that are the light of your life and your grandchildren. So you can chat a little bit about who Dan is personally, your younger years, and then we'll get into some of the other stuff.
Well, you've touched on all the a number of the highlights. The 4 daughters is a gift. People go, 4 daughters, wow, how'd you do that? And
The old fashioned way.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know what it is. I'm actually, I have 3 sisters, 4 daughters, a granddaughter, and my oldest daughter has blessed me with a grandson. Right. So, I've got the best of all worlds. Right. And, but yeah, those children and grandchildren are very much part of my story and my passion for, living a quality life, a fit and quality life so that I can participate in their lives. And instead of, them worrying about dad and how's dad doing, although they have on occasion, as we talk about the story, I really think that part of my passion is just to be available and to, be able just to be energetic in a part of the life. So thank you for mentioning my daughters. I have a love of my life, Karen, and I, hit the jackpot with I call it a divine appointment, how we came together. And at the time we came together, when we were both really in our journey down and out, I'm also blessed with Karen. I actually, I have caller ID on your phone. So, her caller ID is Angel Karen, right? So,
Oh, you sound like you really did hit the jackpot. I have a story about that also. We'll talk about another time.
Okay. So, so that's a little bit of really what's important for Dan and what keeps me motivated and passionate and even in the down times, when things were really dark and bleak, that was always a motivating factor. I'm in the Washington, D.C. area. I'm a local Washingtonian, as they say. I, the bit about education, I think this is probably important in terms of, the journey. Um, so I went to a military high school that was actually named St. John's College High School because it was a preparatory school, right? So it really wasn't technically a college. And my dad had gone to St. John's, and it's like that country and western song about it's a family tradition, right?
Right.
Although, I was in St. John's. It was military, Christian brothers, and all men, of course, all boys, and which is not what my choice would have been. My choice would have been, a public school. But I was in St. John's before I was born. I was destined to go there. So St. John's College High School. And then, Carl, you mentioned, Maryland and the University of Phoenix, which is a really interesting journey in that I came out of 8 years of parochial school, 4 years of Christian Brothers, military, right? Um, s- my dad was a commander in the Navy, and, he was, you know, Irish commander in the Navy, right? To read very strict and disciplined, right? As he was. So that's important because by the time I got to the University of Maryland, which was a wide open 30,000 student campus, I was like in Disneyland.
Yeah.
I had, I mean, the first time I didn't have any constraints on me about where to do, where to go, where to go. So I did not last long at the University of Maryland, right? I figured out, you just cannot, wing it. And you got to go to class and minimally. And so I hung around for about a semester or two and then found myself in the first lottery. Um, Now you might be able to appreciate this. I'm not sure if your listeners will, but in 1969, they had obviously during the Vietnam War or the Vietnam era, they had a lottery where they literally um,
Pick the number.
picked picture yeah, it was I think it was a ping pong ball or something, right? Out of a glass. And then, I was not doing well in college, and my mother, who always wanted me to get a college degree, always wanted me. She was always on me about it. It was a big disappointment. Broke my heart that I broke her heart. Um, but I wasn't doing well, and I literally was rooting in a really kind of weird way to get an early number. And I got my wish. I got a number and I ended up going into the army and ended up in Vietnam and Germany, did my tour in those two areas of the world. And what's the point? 50 years later, I did put together and cobble together some courses in college along the way, here and there, and I had
Mm.
couple, I had some obviously coming out of Maryland, not many. So I made a determination late in my career and right before I retired that I was gonna finish my college degree, and my motivation was to do that, and fulfill the wish and the hopes of my mother who had passed long ago. And, so in 2020, I graduated with a Bachelor of Science in business. Um, yeah, business um, from the University of Phoenix. And Larry Fitzgerald, and this was after my career. I obviously didn't need it, but I fulfilled and was able to complete that part of the journey with education and fulfill my mother's wish.
Well, congratulations. I'm sure she is smiling on you. I would only point
Yes.
out that you got it in 2020 and immediately the nation went into a pandemic and you couldn't use it anyway.
Well, I was in that, it's an interesting point, Carl, because I had my last, I was blessed to be in this area all ships rise with the tide.
Yeah.
I was in sales leadership positions in high tech companies, right? So my last company was Verizon, but the whole world around us exploded with this was pre-internet,
Yeah. Sure.
and so I exited the corporate world and telecommunications with Verizon in 2018, and then pursued New Heart for Life and that branding and just trying to communicate what we'll talk about a little bit later. And then during that time, finished my degree in 2020, as you astutely pointed out. And because of the pandemic, I was unable to have a graduation. It was supposed to be here at the Capitol Center in Washington, D.C., walking across the aisle, and capping down and all that jazz. However, as things come together, Larry Fitzgerald, we did it virtually. It was the first virtual commencement graduation exercise that the University of Phoenix had done. And Larry Fitzgerald was our keynote speaker.
And how did you feel?
Oh, well, Larry Fitzgerald, for the audience, is they may not know and why that was so significant. Larry Fitzgerald was a um, absolutely brilliant football player for the Arizona Cardinals, actually now, Arizona Cardinals. And I loved Larry anyhow, because just of his athletic ability and just, he was just somebody that I was always impressed with. And again, maybe you may have seen it, maybe someone in our audience may have seen it. They could YouTube it, but Larry did a commercial for the University of Phoenix. And it started with him on the phone. His children were in the background, and his mother had passed, but he's on the phone and he said, "Mom, I just wanted to let you know." It was a voicemail, that she still had active. "I just wanted you to know that I have fulfilled your dream and I've completed my college degree," which was at the University of Phoenix. And here he goes. I always that commercial actually inspired me. And like, hey, if he can do it, I can do it.
That's
And
right.
there he was, our keynote speaker in the 2020. I think it was May, right when the pandemic broke.
That's wonderful. I've been talking, seems like I've been talking over the last couple of weeks with a number of people, men like ourselves, who've had delayed gratification in terms of having things recognized. I shot a show last week, which will be live next week, about Lieutenant Colonel James Harvey III. You probably never heard his name, but you will remember him
Mhm.
forever. He was the original Top Gun.
Oh,
Original Top Gun. And he was a Tuskegee Airman. And because the fact that he was black and we had a segregated army at the time, they didn't acknowledge him for 73 years. And when they finally did, they gave him a Congressional Medal of Honor, which they should have all that time ago. But the man
Carrie,
has a great sense of country. He loves the country, regardless of what he went through.
Carlton, amazing you to say that, because if I can recall, Carrie just mentioned to me this. I don't know if it was in the news recently, but and we had just seen Top Gun,
Yeah.
the second
The
edition of
movie.
it
Yeah.
with. Yeah, and she had mentioned that there was a group of a fighter of pilots. I'm sure he was amongst them
The
that were,
Tuskegee Airmen. Right.
that were black, that were
Yep.
actually given less. They weren't given the state of the art at that time.
Right.
Was that right?
That's right.
Planes and
They were
yeah,
flying with inferior aircraft.
right. And so they gave him inferior aircraft, and he evidently, whatever the measurement of success there, but he was the Top Gun,
Right.
and then they suppressed that news for all these years.
That,
She was just telling me about that. Yeah.
well, you can also tell her, he told me something I didn't even know. They gave them what do you call a little statue of some kind. What do they call those things?
Tro-
Like when you play football, you get a trophy. A trophy.
Trophy.
They gave them a
Yeah.
trophy, a silver trophy, that disappeared for 73 years. And then all of a
Wow.
sudden they found it in the archives.
Wow.
73 years. Anyway, we're off track, but the point is, the point is, if you stick to it long enough, sooner or later the light shines through the darkness, and something wonderful happens. And you're saying the same thing. You stuck through it, and you had a wonderful career. You had a wonderful life, but you always felt you had to finish this thing for mom, and you did it. And how
You
wonderful
na-
that is!
you
How
nailed it.
wonderful! That's
You nailed it.
wonderful. So happy to hear that. Proud of you. I'm proud of you, young man.
Now you guys, you can say that.
I can say that. Oh, man, hard to believe I'm an octogenarian. Wow.
Well, I'm proud of you and for what you're doing and all the energy that you have. You can just feel it, right? And
Thank
in this journey and that because we all have a story, right? We all have a book inside of us,
That's
and
right.
so you're doing a lot of good, and it's never too late, right?
Absolutely. Okay, we're going to have to talk about the really serious issue of your story. I know that there was a time when you came this close to death, if not closer, and it traumatized, I'm sure, traumatized you and your family. And it was one of these things that uh, nobody ever forgets how you felt when things were going on and all those things. I've been there. I know what he's talking about. So tell us about the occasion and the result and how you were touched and spurred up out of it to be reborn again, to make a new man.
Okay, so let's take the calendar to 2012 December, 2012, and it was December, and I was going into the VA hospital in Washington D.C. for a stent procedure. And during that stent procedure, um, a lot of things went wrong. Now, I was not conscious, but I had gone in to that hospital that morning. Karen drove me in that morning, and she was waiting in the waiting room for me to be an outpatient. Well, that didn't happen. I became an inpatient for a month.
Hmm.
and and what happened was during that procedure, as it's been recalled to me, the cardiologist who was performing the stent insertion, I had multiple heart attacks on the table and things were going haywire. He literally called the head surgeon who was teaching a class at the time and said, "You need to get down here because I'm not sure what's going on, but we have, Houston, we have a problem
Yeah,
with the situation."
yeah.
And so fast forward 5 days later, um, I woke up it, intubated. My hands were tied to the bed rails. I had no clue where I was at. I couldn't speak. Um, Terrified. And as it was explained to me later, I went through open heart surgery. The surgeon had me go immediately into open heart surgery, and it was a 9-hour operation where they lost me twice in the table, and I had pneumonia going into that procedure,
Well,
and I was on blood thinners.
oh,
And as the story goes, my oldest daughter, in consultation with the head surgeon, with our whole family together, and she said, he said, I never operate on any patient that's either got one of three conditions.
and you had all
With them,
three.
yeah, with pneumonia, on heart, on blood thinners, or that's recently had a heart attack. And I recently had multiple heart attacks, right? And my daughter said, "Well, why did you operate?" And he said, "Well, I had no choice. Your dad was not gonna make it." Just saying how deep that is and how I can tell that story and then all the feelings come out, just kind of you just touched going back there. And the point of that, I had a very courageous surgeon, that took a chance, and he was brilliant in his practice, but also in his courage in terms of getting me through. And I went through, you know, at the hospital. It took me a month to come out of that hospital. I certainly did, and and was able to, I jumped back into work in April. I could have taken a lot longer time off, but I was just wanting to get back into the world and start to, you know, live my life as best I could, which I didn't. The irony of my story, Carl, and this is something where I like to talk about it because the line to fitness or the line to a journey is not straight. It's down and up and down and up. So you would have thought that my bottom might have been what I just shared, emotionally. But I started to slip back into my old habits. It's a very high stressful job leading sales teams. Eating habits started to deteriorate and get back to normal. This was after about 9 months or a year. I was kind of green for a while. I'm going to be really, really
Yeah.
cautious, but I didn't exercise, and I started slipping back into those old habits. And my bottom and was not that hospital experience where I nearly died, or although you might have thought it should have been. My bottom was just one day. Karen and I were on vacation, and I felt bloated. I was at the dinner table, and I pushed myself away from that dinner table. And of course, we had that committee talking to us when we know we're not doing the right thing. So this had
Right.
been working on me for a while. But the epiphany moment was a voice came to me and said, Danny, what are you doing? Man, you've got four beautiful daughters. You've got, Karen, you've got a life that's been given to you so graciously, and you're in extra innings. What are you doing? And that voice in that moment was my bottom of saying, I need to get back into my passion of running. And I need to start to live this life because God has kept me here for a reason, and I'm squandering that reason. I need to find out why God wants me around in extra innings and to live a full, healthy life spiritually, emotionally, and certainly physically.
Right. I have a I have a suspicion I know who that little voice was. I've heard the Holy Spirit's voice myself. I think I know who it was.
Mm.
Well, he blessed you, and you heeded the word.
I
And
did.
you said, "Okay, let's
I
go."
get it. Okay, I get it. I get it. So I had run in my early 30s. Running was my passion. I had run 3 marathons. The last one was a Marine Corps marathon in 1984. And so I did have running, but life started to take over, in the 40s and 50s and 60s and, you know, corporate jobs and, it just life started happening. So all of that was in the background and had faded. And so I picked back up my passion for running, but not marathons. I wasn't really in a situation to maybe I could, as I joke, on a good day at that time, I could drive 26.2 miles, right? Without stopping. Uh, but I was a quarter miler, 400 yards at that time in my senior year of high school. So I did have some speed, and some gifts of speed. So I went back and found this organization, and this is part of the story for everybody, that once you make the decision, and I talk about this in my book, 21 Fitness Principles. The first principle is decide, right? Well, the decision really has got two parts. You have to decide, but then part B is you have to act,
Sure.
right? And I use kind of an analogy of two frogs on a log, and one frog decides to jump. How many are left? And the answer is two, because making the decision
There's only one thing.
is only one thing. You know, you you got to jump. All right. So I jumped, and I jumped right into this organization called Masters. Now, that's Masters is really now anyone over the age of 50, and it's a worldwide organization. It's for it's not just track and field. It's I mean pickleball, which is the fastest growing sport of going on right now. Golf, swimming. So my passion and purpose was track and field. So I started to work out. This is now 2016. Start to practice, um, and and my first event was the Maryland Senior Olympics where I took the bronze medal. And I said, I got this, you know? And then I learned that although at that time I was 67, 68, I'm 73 now. Um, at that time, Carl, I was still with the spirit of 17, but with the body of a
Yeah.
67-year-old, right? And so I learned, I learned the hard way. I got injured, did too much. Sometimes I did too little. I had So I connected up with a team, a master's team, and a coach. So I'm now part of a master's track team. We practice 3 days a week. We do interval training. The coach is magnificent. He understands the masters, and I've got on my team. I've got literally world record um, holders, and fellow colleagues that, are in that category. I'm not. I can compete and be competitive, but not on a world level. I mean, you would not believe the folks. I've got a teammate, 83 years old.
Oh, boy.
Um, there's athletes out there that will run that. Julia Hurricane Hawkins, you can YouTube her. She's 105.
Oh,
And, I met her down at Florida recently at the, Florida Senior Games. So I came into this world of masters competition, and I'm now living my life in reverse. I am like it's just magnificent, and it's in the fitness, it's allowed me to, be accountable to a team and to a coach. It's allowed me the discipline of staying within myself and then the collegiate friends that I've met along the way. So my word is whatever you decide to do in terms of your physical fitness, you need to act. And once you do act, the world will open up and you'll start to experience friends and competitions and places that you never could have dreamed of. And it doesn't have to be obviously track. I mean, running 100 meters, 200 meters, 400 meters is not for, every 73-year-old, but whatever it is, pursue it because motion, as I often say, and I reference the author of this book, Mark Middleton has written a book called Growing Bolder. And, I've met Mark and talked to him several times and big fan of his. And Mark's philosophy is there's a new paradigm shift in aging. And the days of what a 65 or
oh, yeah.
70-year-old used to
Certainly.
do, just like we used to not wear seatbelts back in the day, or
Right.
there's people very common to smoke. And, I mean, it's just the culture has changed now. And we're starting to realize that motion, you can make a decision. Is it motion or medicine? Your choice, right? And Mark talks about that in Growing Bolder, and that it's never too late to start, and that we can defy those stereotypes of what we consider to be growing older into growing bolder. 11,000 people were with me, Carl, in Florida in all types of sports. So I'm now have the pleasure to be part of that and to be able to not only enjoy that new world that's been opened up from that one decision, but also to be able to, compete and improve myself and be accountable and try to be consistent and understand what recovery is all about. So it's been a blessing um, during my extra innings.
That's great because I believe that those of us who have lived long enough to be granted this white hair, I think we have an obligation to generations below us who, for whatever reason it is, and I'll take responsibility as well as all the rest of us. Uh, Over the last 30, 40 years, we've had a 20 or 30 years, we've had a dumbing down of America. And our kids really don't know very much. Let's face it. Some of them do, but most of them have not been taught the history of the country, the ethics of the country, the values of the country. And those of us who have survived long enough, and now we're in a place where we can have a platform. It used to be that people like you and I would retire at 65 and be dead by 70. Social Security was structured for that. Nobody expected anyone to live this age. But we're not only living, we're vital, and we have a message and we have a platform. And I believe we have an obligation to speak on that platform. So I get involved in things that are not quite as physical, but they're quite passionate and demanding as well in terms of what do we say? How do we share the word? How do we share the word? Not only that there's a vitality and a potential for life beyond 60, that you can have a great life, a wonderful life. You can have a God blessed life, but you can also have a life where you can participate and become a vital part of this country again. And I think that's been lost too long. And this is part of what I do. Some people say I pontificate. Me, I think I share wisdom. And I think it's an important thing to do in this world. So I applaud you. I really do applaud you in what you're doing. I live in Florida. Where are the meets that you do? I'll come and cheer you on.
Well, in 2000, like, 2019, we were in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and then 2021, yeah, 2021, we were, well, let's say, no, 2022, because 2021 was obviously, we were still locked down. So we skipped 2021. In 2022, we were in Fort Lauderdale.
My
Then
backyard. I live in
yeah.
Coral
So,
Springs, right there.
oh, yeah.
How did I not
Yeah,
even
we
know
were
what was
Fort,
going on?
oh yeah. It was very cool. It's very cool. Yeah, we were in Fort Lauderdale. They had the torch, Kathy Switzer, who was the woman that was pulled out of the Boston Marathon in 1980 something because women were not allowed to run
Yeah,
the
right.
she carried the torch and lit the cauldron.
Wonderful.
They had a parade of athletes, and yeah, I'm sorry you missed it. It was in Fort Lauderdale.
Oh,
You could probably Google it and see
oh,
some
I'm
of
sure, and I will after we talk today. But I would have
it.
loved to see that. I would have loved to see that.
Right.
It's,
Yeah. So this next year, Carl, it's going to be in July of this year. We're going to be in Pittsburgh.
I've I wasn't much of an athlete as a young kid. I ran some track, but my my sport really was boxing because I came out of issues in the neighborhood that I grew up in and had family problems, had a lot of rage in me. So I became a boxer and I was pretty good at it, but haven't been doing anything like that for a long, long time. And I was a light heavyweight regional boxing champion for New York State with the Golden
Wow.
Gloves, in the Golden Gloves. But
Wow.
that
Wow.
was a long time ago.
Did you dance like a butterfly and sting like a bee?
No, I was more flat-footed, but it was okay for the time, so couldn't
I
have kept
have,
up with that.
if time permits, I would like to add kind of a little appendix to what I just shared that's really recent and I think relevant.
Please do.
Coming out of Florida, the senior games, I contracted COVID. When I got back, I tested positive for COVID. And it was mild. I had obviously been vaccinated and boosted. And so I went through a week and change of COVID. And then wasn't back at track practice yet. And of course, I was staying away from everybody and quarantining. But then on May 29th, on Memorial Day weekend, that was a Sunday. Karen and I were out having a great dinner. We're having just a blast, laughing. We got back in the car and she hadn't started the car yet, but I went to say something and it came out like I was underwater. And she thought I was kidding. And she said, "What?" And I said it again. And then she looked at me and knew that I was not kidding. Um, and I had fear in my eyes. I was drooling. So I was undergoing a stroke. And that was May 29th. And I they rushed me, and she called the rescue squad, and I spent 5 days in the hospital. They had to do, cardiac surgery and clean her out, and at the end of the day, the surgeon determined that that stroke was related to COVID. It was a clot that went to my brain that was related to COVID. Thank the good Lord. Again, I'm now say I'm not in extra innings. I'm now saying that I'm in double overtime. Um and I guess I share that for the audience because they were not going to do um, surgery on me because of my previous heart condition. They were fearful that my heart wouldn't make it, even though I told them that my vitals were okay. And they put me on a treadmill. And they said they take 37 year olds off the treadmill way before I couldn't max it out because I've been doing interval training, not that I just got back from Florida from competition. I was in great shape.
Mm.
And they said, "Man, you nailed that treadmill. We could not believe how well you did. And of course, we're going to do surgery." And they did. I'm now back on the other side. I'm now back into my fitness program. I'm swimming. I'm getting ready for the Maryland Senior Olympics for the swimming events, getting ready for some competitions later this year. And I say that, Carl, for our journeys is that the reason that I was able to get through that stroke and through that 5 days and through that surgery and be able to convince the doctors that my heart was strong enough is because of my fitness
Your condition.
regimen before. And again, Mark talks about this in his book, Growing Bolder. It's prehabilitation versus rehabilitation because life's going to come at us.
Right.
I mean, no matter what.
Right.
And I had it in spades, and so I just share that it's unlike what I did the first time and started to get in shape when I was really on the bottom. I was in shape and was able to take life's punches to your boxing. Um, and so I just share that in terms of anybody that might think that, hey, I'm okay. It's the quality of life that you get to live by being energetic, but it's also that when you do have to undergo something that's unexpected, you'll have a better chance of making it through.
Remarkable man. And I want to give you a few minutes to say whatever you'd like. And ladies and gentlemen, he's going to tell you, I'm sure, about how to reach him. Don't worry about writing it down. It's all going to be in the show notes. You're going to know just how to connect with him and how to ask him questions and follow him because I know you're going to want to. This is a remarkable person. So, Dan, you got the floor for a couple of minutes.
All righty. Give me one of those left hooks when I get to a minute and a half.
I'll pull my ear like Carol Burnett.
There you go. We're giving away our age. It's, I have a site called New Heart for Life, and that actually was a brand that the American Heart Association, when they heard my story as I've just described it, the American Heart Association wrote up an article called A New Heart for Life and talked about what we've shared with over the last 40 plus minutes. And newheartforlife.com has got that article from the American Heart Association. This also has a link, there'll be a pop-up window, but you can also sign up. I went through the COVID period. I put together a digital book called 21 Fitness Principles based on my experience. And those principles that allowed me to make the journey from open heart surgery and now from the stroke to where I'm at now. And they're principles that, like gravity, apply to no matter what your endeavor or passion is in life. So I talked about decide, I talk about accountability. They're one word principles. I'm a big believer in keeping it simple. So accountability, consistency, teammates. The last one is, oh, well, there's one recovery. We need to rest and recover our bodies. And the last principle is journey, that the journey is really the reward, that, we're going to have fits and starts with wherever we're going, but take your passion and enjoy and savor the process of where you want to get towards. It's really a quest, and the quest is different from a goal. Quest is you never get there, but it's a journey that really is the benefit. So 21 fitness principles to inspire your new heart for life. It will be there for the taking. It's complimentary. Enjoy it, pass it on. And thank you for your support in terms of carrying the message that it's never too late to change.
Dan, I repeat, you're a remarkable man. It's my pleasure to meet you. It really is. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this show. If you hadn't, if this didn't resonate with you, you're dead already. Lay down. I mean, what else can you hear that gets you to motivate you to recognize, live life with tenacity, grab it with both hands, get in there and live it, because there's so much benefit for yourself, for the people you love, and for all those who can benefit from your wisdom. Get out there and do something. I want to remind you, we have a new show every Wednesday morning. And if you have a person that you'd like to recommend to be on the show, please do. Like Dan, they can be on the show and inspire people with their story. And I also want to tell you what I say every week. You have your unique story. I know it. Everybody has their own story. And just like Dan and myself, no one can tell it but you. You're the only one that can tell that story. So write it down, share it with friends and relatives, share it with your loved ones. Because if you don't, when it's too late, it's too late. That wisdom is gone to the world forever. Make sure you share your story. And I also will say this to you, which I say every week, and I'm sure Dan will agree with me. Tell someone you love them today. Very important. Hug somebody. Tell them you love them, because that's what makes this world go round. Tell them you love them. Bye. Thank you for tuning into the show. I hope that it resonated with you. It certainly did with me. And I hope it encouraged you to realize the true power of your story. As a reminder, new episodes will be released Wednesday mornings on your favorite podcast apps, and also on YouTube as well. Be sure to like, subscribe, and turn your notification button on to ensure that you receive updates on new episode releases. I'm grateful for your reviews and your support. The love is certainly felt. Keep it coming. You can reach out to connect with me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, or stop by my website, toeverypageofturning.com. All links are clickable in the show notes for quick access. Do you think that you or someone you know may be our most inspiring guest yet? Let's hope so. Click on our contact page and get in touch on my website and share your story. I look forward to reading each one personally. My best-selling book, To Every Page of Turning, which was published by Mascot Books, is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, and many more popular book retailers. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Till next time, remember that every day is a new opportunity to write your new page in your incredible journey. And it is incredible. You're the only one who has it.